3, 2, 1.
And it's live.
This is Leicester Till I Die TV. Watch and subscribe on YouTube and listen on your podcast platform.
And there we are. Good afternoon, everybody. One thing you can't say about Leicester City, it's boring following our club. There is always something going on. Was it Sandy Shaw that once sang "There's always something there to remind me"? My DJ bit coming out there, by the way. But there's always something going on. There was always something going on with Leicester City. I had a nice, easy morning. I had a lay-in this morning. I had a friend come round for coffee. I just did a little bit of PR work for the radio, and I thought, I'll go and get my lunch. And so I'll just check before I go, just to see what if anything's going on. And I went into our chat. We've got a chat, and I'm thinking, hang on, what's kicked off? And I looked into it, and yes, it apparently we are appealing. Now, I've been joined by two men who you could probably say aren't appealing, but that probably would be very unfair to them. Had to get it in there. Jim, all the way from America, good afternoon, sir. And Tom, all the way from Devon with his clotted cream, welcome along to you both. George is in. Hi, Georgie, as is Andreas. 16 of you in. Please remember to smash that likes button, subscribe if you're new and you want to chat. And if you're on your mobile phone, obviously, remember to hype us. And, of course, not forgetting our podcast listeners, if this is how you are getting this show via your favourite podcast platform, thank you for lending us your ears. A very quick question then, and it's the same question to both of you. I'll come to you first, Tom. Is this a wise decision?
Yeah, it's a decision we had to make, Chris. I mean, you probably want a quick answer so we can get into the meat of it, but the Premier League were going to appeal the decision anyway, weren't they? So I think for us, we were going to have to counter appeal. I mean, there's a thing where we could end up with more points. That circumstance is very likely as well, but I think we had to in the circumstances what the Premier League was going to do.
Jim?
Well, originally, I was certainly in your camp. I just said, get it over with, take the 6 points and go. But the more I thought about it lately, and then when I heard the news this morning in our chat, I'm like, go after them. And who knows, it may be stuck in litigation for a while out. But yeah, let's see what we can do.
I mean, like I say, I'm still taking this all in. I know I had an immediate response to it, which was, what the fuck are you doing? But, like I say, I've only literally, when I posted my first post in our group chat, that was the first time I've sort of seen anything about it. So I'm still sort of trying to take it all in. I'm just going to look now because, interestingly, they should have taken the points off us or given us the points back, I mean. But unfortunately, no. Although it's gone to appeal, the Google is still showing us with 32. If we get those points back, of course, that will give us 38, and that will move us up to the heady heights of 19th. Look, let's just go through this here. Leicester, this is the BBC. Leicester appeal against 6 points deduction. Yeah, Daz, sorry, just to go ahead. Daz has just come in and see what you boys say when they increase it after appeal. All right, let me go straight to this then. I'll come back to the BBC afterwards because that's a good point. We got off lightly, Tom. I think we all sort of generally agree that 6 points was very light. If if the Sky say, Sky, it was probably right. EPL was saying they wanted 20 points. They are saying they're appealing because we didn't get a deduction for also being late with our putting our accounts in. Now that's already been addressed by the committee, if you like, because they said they were looking at what Leicester have been doing recently, and they can see that we're trying to make an effort. So that's why it was 6 points. So I don't know whether they can appeal and we would get 20 points, or whether it would just go back up, up to 7. But I can't see whether they would win it or not with, the fact that they'd already kind of addressed it.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, isn't it? I mean, I completely get the emotional response from the fan base today, and I get it. I mean, the club has given the fan base a loaded gun right now, and this is a bullet we can pick up off the floor and put in the gun, because of how the club has been run, which I think has been very irresponsible. There's been no plan B for what happens if we're not in the Premier League, and all these things have been completely overlooked for the happier days and for this arrogance of that, we're going to be fine. But the reality is the rules are unenforceable. They're unenforceable. And it's been proven by the fact there's been other appeals made before, and there's been other things turned around. And I'll go back to it at the original point. And for me, Chris, it comes down to the fact that the rules are, just like I say, unenforceable. I think there's other clubs out there who are broken by much higher amounts than us. Chelsea, somewhere in the region of 300 million, they were over. We were 20 million over. That has been swept under the rug. I know people don't like this argument, but it's because it's not the trendy thing, right? But they've proven by that. Let's give an example of if Chelsea, for example, were to be given a points deduction for 300 million, that points deduction would have been so much they'd been relegated from the Premier League. And that should have happened at the time when we were getting promoted or in the Premier League the year before. In which case, would Leicester have not stayed up? In which case, would we have kept our place in the Premier League? Would we have got an extra £160 million worth of revenue? This is why I think we should appeal it, because I think it's actually unenforceable. And look, I don't want the ownership here either. I think the relationships become untenable. But that's a completely different argument to me from a logical one of, are the rules actually safe and secure and fair for everyone? And I don't feel they are. And I think that's why we've got this appeal. And I think that's why we'll win the appeal, because I think our lawyers will be able to prove that, as other clubs have done in the past.
Well, and I think that's, I agree with what Andreas said. One of my thoughts were we must have had some really good legal advice to go into it. I mean, granted, our club has been topsy-turvy, like Tom said, and poorly run. But to go jump into this now, I mean, I woke up this morning, Chris, you talk about you being surprised. I was just having my first cup of tea because it's still in the morning over here, and I see in the chat, yesterday we get a new manager. Today we're appealing. Like, whoa, slow down, club. But they must have had some decent legal advice to just jump back into it. They got enough shit going on in the club to jump back into this without having at least some good advice or direction.
Yeah. Okay, let me put the argument back to you. That good point, Tom. I mean, I really don't give a shit about Manchester City or Chelsea. I don't give it. They can break any rules they want. They're not my club. I don't really care what they're doing. But I accept that you use that as the yardstick by which you judge other cases. So I understand that. We were the fine then, but then the rules were changed. Manchester City haven't been found guilty. So we cannot quote that. We don't know what they will do if and when they are found guilty. And the only thing I can say, and I don't like it with Man City, I really don't like it at all, but it is 115 compared to our 3, and we don't know conspiracy theories or anything like that. That could all be true. We will have to wait and see. The latest Chelsea ones, they actually came and owned up to it because they said, we've now checked the books. That's the new owners. We've now checked the books. Shit, we found this. Here we go. Punish us, whatever. This is how it is. Completely, again, both those situations completely different to the situation that this club has been operating under, which is late accounts, and allegedly they were sat there. I mean, I don't think it is allegedly, because I think the person that told me is quite into that sort of thing. But allegedly, these things were sat on Susan Whelan's desk and not moved out. Allegedly, like I keep saying. We know we've spent too much, over many years. All we're doing, they're going to get us one way or another. They're going to get us. All this means is that next season we're going to have this hanging over our head again, which we possibly were anyway, because we're not out of that 3-season thing yet. But it's just going to drag on, and I'm fucking fed up. And I've got to say, I was reading this, and I don't know exactly what I said. I think I'm on the way of I'm fed up with this bloody club. And this isn't football. This isn't football. This 6 points, we got away with it. Accept it. If they appeal the Premier League, then maybe we might get another point or 2 points. We're probably going to go down anyway. Just accept it and move on. Otherwise, we're going to be going through all this again next season. And I've had fucking enough of it.
Yeah, and I completely understand where you're coming from, Chris, because I don't think there's any fan out there that will disagree with that. My argument is it's a completely logical argument versus the emotional one, and my point is that ultimately the rules have to be the same for everyone. Do you remember when we got in trouble for inflating the King Power sponsorship and got a fine? I would argue that Chelsea inflated the price of their women's team by quite a lot. There's no TV deal to say a women's team's worth £225 million. That is a massive more inflation than what happened with the King Power being overinflated by 1.2 million, what we got charged for. There needs to be a standard rule for everyone that is applicable for everyone, because like you say, it is sickening, because now all we're talking about is off-field matters that are impacting on-field. And you could argue the last decade of the Premier League and the English football game has been completely overshadowed by things off the pitch. And there needs to be a bottom line drawn under it. But the fact that we keep getting targeted about this when there isn't a set standard for everyone, and the fact that it's affected clubs like Everton, like Burnley as well, like Nottingham Forest, it's not just all about Leicester this. It's not just all about us here going, it's about what's best for football. And this is the problem. We can all go, we've been beaten by a stick to the point where we're sick of it. And I agree, that's what they've tried to do. But the reality is they have got to put a fair standard in for everyone, because otherwise you're getting a situation where they are literally admitting with the big six will not face any consequences for any sort of irregularities. We're going to work with them to say you can sell things to other things. You can have a B team, which you're going to make 12 transfers in between to be able to get around the books a little bit. And we didn't do that with Leuven, did we? We haven't been selling players to Leuven. I suggested we should start playing the game that way.
But then again, that's just pure, that's just being stupid, because, we shouldn't have to do that. If this ownership hadn't put us in this situation, and we have to accept, as much as we love them and everything they've done, Jim, it's the ownership that have put us in this position. And like I come back to you, so fucking what about Chelsea? Let them sort their own problems out, really. And I do know, or I have read somewhere, and so I can't say it's true or not, but I have read somewhere, Jim, that they are actually looking at closing that legal loophole about the hotels and the women's teams and all that. We could do one thing to have cleared our debt, and that was to sell Beaver Drive, which is our old training ground. We would get millions for that. It is in a prime position, is in the middle of an estate, whether they change it into shops or flats or houses. And that would have probably, I'm not sure, because I'm not, that's not my field of expertise, although you could say Leicester isn't, in fairness, but that would have cleared all our debt in one go. And yet we're still sat there training the women training on it. Well, haven't we got enough fucking pictures at Seagrave?
No, I mean, think of it this way. When we got into such financial straits, we should have looked at every opportunity to sell whatever we could to recoup the money, to keep us from, first of all, selling players that we needed in the club. I mean, granted, as a last resort, I'd rather sell that training ground easily and any other assets before we lose a KDH or lose a player that really means a lot to the club. Secondarily, you're absolutely right. We know that the club has not been run as effective or as well as we should. And I'm still taking it in like you. I'm torn. I thought we got off easy with 6 points, but there's got to be a level playing ground. just like Andrea said, there's got to be. And if there's legal advice enough to say we have a ground to stand and we don't go backwards and they to give us more without punishing other teams, which I don't think they'll do. It's all about Leicester right now. I don't see them punishing these other teams. You're absolutely right. We should just forget the Chelsea, the Man City and all that, because they're not going to be touched. Just face it. They will not be touched. They can just dick around with the Burnleys and the Leicesters and even Everton got off. I mean, but I think right now, if there's a legal ground, throw it out there, and maybe it gets hung up. And I just wish, as I told Tom in our chat, I just wish we'd have done this before they took the 6 points, because if it keeps getting pushed out, we would at least endure this season and still stay up. And if they're going to put it in the beginning of a season, say next season, say they didn't hit us with that 6 points and we stayed up this season, and then next year or during the off season, they slammed us with 6 or 7 or whatever, at least we'd start off with it. We'd have time to recuperate. But as it is right now, because all these appeals have done after they processed the 6 points, it's going to be tough. I don't see him putting it back in the standings. I just don't. But
they have to put it back on the standings if it's gone to appeal.
You would think. They make their own damn rules. Who knows?
Well,
that's exactly it.
Added back on and then taken off, whether it's more or not. You had your hand up, Tom.
Yeah, it's just a quick one, and it's a good point about Greg's just put there. May as well appeal, could be on hope of staying up. Look, and here's the thing: the club has been run badly, and we're angry about it. And that is my bottom line with all this. I want the club to run better. I would also argue with that from a non-emotional way. I wish we'd been as clever as Chelsea. I wish we'd been, when those loopholes were there, why didn't we take them? It was only 20 million quid for us. It would have taken one transaction, and none of this would have happened. I think that's where I get a lot of anger, because if it's being allowed for other clubs and now they've closed these loopholes, we should have jumped on that straight away and shown the intelligence of how we're being run to be able to get ourselves out of this if we had copped up. And I think you've seen the club this year trying at least to make a change in the right direction. I still would like a new ownership. I still think they're not really in the right ballpark, and I think the relationship's untenable. But here, if we get relegated and we don't battle this, we are risking the club's future. And that is something which for me is unacceptable, because then I'd say, look, how much of responsibility is ours and how much is also on the league for their rules? Because the rules of the league could then actually put a football club out of business, Chris, which is completely unacceptable and completely counter the point of what PSR, of what financial fair play, all these things were entirely created for. It is unacceptable. And I'm actually, like I said today, I'm delighted the club have actually decided to appeal it. I wanted them to appeal it even if the Premier League didn't appeal it, which we knew they were going to do, because we've got to back ourselves here, because our football club's future depends on it.
There's no guarantee that we will go out of business if we get relegated. Financially, it'll be stronger. Maybe we have to rely on the youth, which isn't possibly a bad thing. You know, we might have to sell mongers and such like. But I think we could survive. And I'm going to be in, and I don't know whether I've told either of you two, or if it was Clibo, who I seem to have been married to this week. But I invited the guy from Sunderland that's been on and saying all of these things. So I invited him, I messaged him and said, would you come on to our show as a Leicester fan and talk about it to Leicester fans? Now, his reply, and I'm just going to get it here, Charlie Methuen, I think he's called. And I said, look, you know, you've articulated very well. You know what you're talking about. Obviously, you've been there, seen it, you're wearing the T-shirt. But, you know, come and talk. And this was his reply. Thank you for the kind words below. I think on balance it's a no. I have said my piece and will say a little bit more this week. So maybe he had an idea that this was coming along. But don't want to seem overly obsessed with one club. Now, this next paragraph is interesting. I don't know, and he's got in no in inverted commas, I don't know that LCFC is in big trouble financially. It could be that Top and his mum have cash stashed away to fund LCFC. Really, it is now the time for the media to take up the story. Good luck. I hate to see fans suffer from their club's mismanagement. So all this thing that he was putting out, and it was a very good argument, and I watched the show, is based on assumptions. It's not based on fact, anything like that. It's based on assumptions. I don't know, is what he said, that Leicester are in big trouble financially. We don't know what will happen. Top has been removed as being in charge of King Power, Jim, but he's still at King Power. It's just he's got this executive role now. So maybe he's not involved in the day-to-day running, but he's still involved heavily. So maybe something's going to change back to there where King Power again take over. I don't know. I'm not a mind reader. But 6 points, we could possibly stay up. We've got a fighting chance of staying up. We come back now and we adopt 8, 9, 10. I don't think we'll get the 20, but 8, 9, 10 points. Then we will go down. And then we've got the situation that Tom's saying now straight away is, well, if we get relegated, it'll be worse. Well, if we lose the appeal, we'll go down, almost certainly, I believe. And it's only my opinion. I'm not saying it's fact. So we're risking the club's future by appealing, using Tom's argument.
We're not, though, because the Premier League is going to appeal it anyway, and they wanted not just one, they wanted more points than that, Chris. So if we didn't counteract their appeal of our own, we were accepting whatever punishment is going to come on top of this already. So we had to. So, guys, I appreciate what everyone's saying. I would take the 6 points, like I said, and go, let's draw a line under it. We're in a position where we can't. We have to do this because what the Premier League is doing. It's unpleasant. We don't want to do it. We want this all over. But if we don't, then we're just accepting, okay, it could be up to 20.
Yeah,
and then we are relegated.
Jim, yes, because it was up to you, Jim.
It's just assumptions too, right now, like you said, and opinions. Because, I mean, it could be all levels that we end up. It could be they wipe it clean and we stay without the 6 points and we're back up to 19th, or it could be they roll and they say, "I hear you, I hear you." They say no to the powers that be, but they say, "Sorry, Leicester." They say no to us. You're going to be stuck with the 6 points, and we're right where we are. I'm not a legal expert, but I don't see him at this point hammering us with more. I see the worst thing that could come with us, once again, with not having anything to base it on, but just an opinion, is they may come back and say, everything's fair, enough appealing on both sides, you're stuck with the 6 points. And you're right, Chris, at least we know then we have a fighting chance. I feel good. I feel good with our new managerial hire. It put a little bit of excitement back in the fan base. I've been reading a lot out there, still a lot of negativity, but we'll give them a chance. And the fact that we feel we have a chance, we know we didn't through 4 games of Kingy in charge. The way this team was playing, we didn't. So if we do get stuck with these 6 points, at least we had a chance to appeal. And maybe things are rewritten for the future. Maybe the loopholes are closed. Who knows? But once again, if we got the right legal advice, which God forbid, I hope we have, go get them and see. I just don't see him tacking more on. I don't.
I wish I had your confidence. But I think when you're saying that, the people that are appealing, and it's interesting, it's not the EFL that are appealing, it's the EPL that are appealing. So it's the Premier League that are appealing. I'm not sure whether this fine that we've got isn't for the season that we're in the EFL under Enzo. And if that's the case, then why? Although I know the EPL and the EFL are trying to come together, which is sensible, so that it's one thing. I just don't know. It's not going to be reduced. Let's be honest. That's not going to happen. I just don't know whether we're not. Look, we got away with it because we found this loophole. Nick DeMarco, who I'm sure is going to be behind this, and good. We need him. It's we are the Titanic, and we are slowly sinking. So we need him to come in. And I'm guessing that's who they've gone to. And he must have said that, look, we can appeal this on, and given us a basis on which to appeal. We don't know who's appealed first. It would make sense if the EPL appealed and we went, well, all right, then we're going to appeal. That makes more sense to me than appealing and then making the EPL appeal. We don't know. We're all guessing. We don't know that it's not the case that the Premier League said, "Well, look, if nothing's said, we'll just let them get on with the 6 points." We don't know. It's chicken egg. What came first? We will never know. But I'm a glass half empty sort of guy. So I'm looking at this and go, and I always have been, as I always think, look at the worst case scenario. And then anything that's not as bad as that is a plus. So for me, the worst case scenario is they come back with a higher points deduction and we're down whatever. We're not going to get any sympathy off any other clubs because we have cheated. We have broken the rules season after season after season. Even, like I say, going back to Nigel Pearson's championship winning season. And I just think it's a hell of a gamble to take. A hell of a gamble. And all we're doing, as we did last time, is kick the ball down the road. Because, Tom, the rumours have been, and I know this for a fact from people that I've been speaking to, that we would possibly get another points deduction next year for the last, for the season. That could possibly be the end of it. So, all that's going to happen, surely, if we appeal and win, we're kicking the tin down the road.
It was always going to be this way, unfortunately, Chris, because like you say, that was the problem with what the club's got wrong in this situation. And that is completely on the club. And that's why we've got rightful ammunition to fire at the club to make sure they get it right. And like I said, I'd like new ownership personally, but the ultimate thing I'm going to say about this is there was a decision and judgment made here for 6 points, which I think everyone was in agreement with, and then the Premier League's gone, no, we're not happy with this, we're going to come after you again. So the Premier League has done this, and as far as I'm concerned, they should stick their business out of our business, because we're not a Premier League club anymore. I know we were during these times, but coming after us again when you've already kicked us when you're down, you've already had legal situations where Everton have had to go to court with Burnley to sell out financial situations and money because of bad decisions that the Premier League has made before, which shows that they cannot run a piss up in a brewery. I think it is really, really low vibration and really crap of them to come back and do this. I also said when the points deduction came out, didn't I? The timing of this was terrible. And I said they should have at least put it on to next season if they were going to do it, because what was going to happen always was there was going to be an appeal coming from somewhere. And I mean, we suspected Leicester were always going to appeal, irrelevant if the Premier League did, right? And I said, all it's going to do is put the end of the championship season in jeopardy. So all they've done with this is now they've put a situation where clubs like Oxford, Portsmouth, Charlton, all these clubs are now going to get dragged into this mess when there was an absolute 6 points sorted out and it was resolved and everyone was agreeing of it. And now they've completely thrown this whole season in jeopardy for every other club. So I think, honestly, the Premier League, you've got to have a word with yourselves, because all you're doing is pandering to a 6 elite to make sure you get your TV rights deal every year, to the point where Manchester United have seemingly begin more VAR decisions than a lot of other teams would get in the positive direction when they were facing trouble. And I'd argue you might see similar things coming up in the future, potentially. So look, I think they need to get their house in order here. And the new rules they got coming in aren't going to affect this in a positive manner either. There needs to probably be an independent ombudsman to football that is going to hold these leagues accountable, because then we can avoid this. And it won't just be us being sat in this situation one day, Chris. It's going to be Forest, Aston Villa, if they crash out of Europe, are going to face the same problem with this, and it's going to really get worse.
As I keep saying, I don't give a shit about Aston Villa.
I know, but it's got to be the same for everyone, Chris. You cannot have a fair league or a fair football sporting contest if the rules aren't the same for anyone. And the fact that anyone is using it as a justifiable argument to me is ridiculous. That's like saying, I know I'm going to get less, and I know I don't deserve the same foundation as anyone else. That's like saying, if you get into a crime for something, that you don't deserve the same punishment as someone else. That is completely wrong.
But they don't. There isn't, you could murder somebody and you'll get 20 years. I could murder somebody by being drunk and driving into them, and I'll get 10 years. So there's no parity on anything. And let's be honest with you, we moan about the Premier League and all the money and the big clubs, and we've enjoyed the benefits of that. We've enjoyed the benefits of the money and what have you that came with winning it. So, but all this, Jim, I know it's come through late, but had this club put the accounts in place on time, this might have happened before Christmas. I don't think it would have made any difference, but it might have happened before Christmas. Again, we are in this position because of the club's own making.
Yeah, I mean, we all admit the timing is really bad. I mean, it was really bad when we got the 6 points. Certainly before the season would have been good, or before next season would have been good. Secondly, we already know that the club is screwed up. We know that. I mean, Tom referenced back, why didn't we do something a couple of years back when they first hit us on this or that? We were just punch drunk being in the Premier League, winning the Premier League. We got big heads as a club thinking we were one of the big boys. And truly, we were in the top 5 playing well, but we weren't one of the big boys. And I think back then we just thought I don't want to say get away with it. I just think we were bigger than we were. And then it's proven over the years we haven't. Once we got dropped down, we weren't able to sustain. And then now we got in trouble. The real crux of it now is if, and it sounds like they did, if the EPL appealed first, then we had to appeal. We had to appeal. I don't think any governing body, and once again, it's just opinion, is going to slap us with more and go back on something when we're not even a Premier League club. If we were a Premier League club, then no holds barred. They would have a lot more leverage. But what are they going to go back? This little club that's fighting for their lives in the championship, we want to penalize them more? Come on. I don't see it. That's why I think ultimately.
Let me come back on those points. First of all, a lot of fans would argue that we're not a little club now. We are. We are the Manchester City of this division. So,
of the division, yes, but I was putting them up against the Man Cities, the Chelseas, and the big boys in the Premier League. We certainly are one of the best classy teams of the championship. But
yeah, I wouldn't say we were a little club, and I think a lot of people would probably argue with that. Years ago, it was all little old Leicester. Now, no, I don't think you get away with that with what we've done recently.
By the metrics, we're the 15th biggest club in the country when you take everything into consideration. When it comes to fan base and money, we're the 15th biggest club in the, or 14th.
Strike that.
Yeah, we'll strike that one then, because again, I think at some point we were 15th in Europe or whatever. And yeah, like you said, look, we were in top 5. We came 5th 2 years running, but it wasn't enough for the fans. The fans were complaining. Well, we were in the top 4 all season. Yeah, but that's the thing. It is a season. It's not on one game. But top 5 wasn't enough. We should be in the Champions League. And the board are looking at that and thinking that, yeah, they've got a point. We should be in the Champions League. Let's go and spend loads more money.
Yeah.
And, like I say, a lot of this is down to the club. I won't argue with that with you, Tom. But like I say, I can just see it going all just the wrong way, because look at Sheffield Wednesday. And Jim said, why would they come back and hit us with more points? Sheffield Wednesday got, was it a 12-point deduction?
They had a couple this year.
Yeah. And then they came back. The owner had gone. The guy that owned them had disappeared. Or, he'd been banned from the club and what have you. So it wasn't his club anymore. And then they came back. And they deducted more points from Sheffield Wednesday for something that happened under the owner that is no longer there. So, yes, they will come back whether you've got points deductions or not. They will come back and give you more points deductions. As Derek said there, sorry, Derek, I didn't see that. Look at what they did to Sheffield Wednesday, 100%. And look, it's all up in the air. This will drag it on to next season now. 14 games to go. I can't look how long it took them to do the appeal. They did it in December, and it took them 8 weeks. And again, you could argue, Tom, that, well, if there's another 8 weeks, that's only going to leave us probably 4 games or something to actually try and save our season. They're not going to be bothered about that,
Yeah.
They may do it this season anyway. And look, we've got no chance, like I say, of staying up, and we're going to be going down.
Well, bearing in mind it's going to be about the appeals about the case that's already been heard. Yes, it will go on to this year's because they've shown they've already done that with the first one this year. So we could face a secondary points deduction. That's true. Look, ultimately, I'm so annoyed with football right now, generally, and the way it's run that I think we need to be part of the voice of change here. And look, I know that's a dispassionate and different argument to us wanting new ownership. Like the two things to me, do not put them together. They are different arguments completely. You know, we know all about the ownership. We know all about that. There's enough noise about that. We all pretty much in agreement. But the rules need to be made fair for everyone. They need to be fair. We need to be part of that by fighting back against it because, like I said, it's not going to be all Leicester and end at Leicester. We've seen that everywhere else. And it is disgusting treatment what's happened to Sheffield Wednesday. You know, it really is. Kicking people while they're down. You know, no standard for every single club to be treated the same. We said this in another episode, and I stand by this. How we got a transfer window, there should be a PSR window, and it should be before a season starts, the week before. And that should go back to the previous year or 2 years, whatever you decide that to be. And in that time, it should be when any deductions are issued before a league starts. So if anyone's starting on minus points, everyone knows where they stand, and then there'll be nothing about it until a year later. Because then you do not get into these situations where all football becomes is this off-pitch financial nuisances that we are seeing that completely takes away from the game. And it really, really, mate, it's got to the point where, like, for a lot of football fans, they're getting put off it. So while the Premier League can sit there, and I'm going to pick on them in particular here, because I don't think the EFL has been as much involved in this as the Premier League. The Premier League can sit there counting all the wads of money coming in because they're protecting a Big Six, because the commercial revenue of a Big Six club is more than Leicester ever brought to the Premier League by winning the Premier League. You know, they will say in their metrics that is going to be so much more because of the worldwide fan base. You know, that is the matter of it. You know, we don't mean anything. We're peanuts in comparison to that. But they've got to get their house in order now.
Yeah, and I'll come to you in a second, Jim. I saw you got your hand up. But just on that point, Everton and Nottingham Forest, when they got their points deductions, and they got them reduced because they behaved well, which we're never going to get that. I mean, the fact that we didn't get that extra point, I think, was like a miracle. But that was in November. So they had the transfer window and everything to get ready. And that is a very valid point, you know, that it should be done at a certain time. And, of course, those of you out there that voted in the last election and put Sakir in charge, they want to bring in a football. No, joking apart, it's Labour that want to bring in this football ombudsman. I can't remember, political jokes aside, whether it was under the Conservatives, whether they'd started to look at it or not, and he's just carried it on. But the government want to do that, and I have to say, 100%. And in fact, they should have a minister for sport, and it would be his job. But look, like I say, we're getting into political bonus points there. But yeah, I agree. I think there should be one of those. Jim, I apologise. You had your hand up. I presume you didn't want to go to the toilet. What would you like to say?
No problem. Just a comment and a question to follow up on Tom's timing. Certainly should be something done with PSR before a season starts, because not only, and we mentioned it earlier, not only is it affecting us, but it affects all the teams around us, and it will no matter what. And just say next season it's another club. If they do this mid-season, you're affecting everybody around you. There's teams that'll get relegated that shouldn't, and should that don't, and it's just a mess. So I agree with that. That was the comment. The question point was with Chef Wednesday. Who was the one that punished them? Was it the EPL coming down when they weren't in the EPL like what we got? Or was it their parent division that they were in? Who punished them?
I'm not 100% on that, because the EFL and the EPL, after what we did and saying, well, we're not under your jurisdiction, we weren't under your jurisdiction because we managed to move our dates around and a little bit of skullduggery, and it wasn't wrong. You know, there's, as Nick DeMarco said, there's no loopholes, just very badly written rules. And we all sort of said there'll be people at the Premier League headquarters running around with brooms up their arses. Well, Tom's cattle prod, you know, because being punished for you know, not writing it clearly. And as far as I understood, and again, look, I'm no expert, but as far as I understood, I thought they'd come together as one so that doesn't happen anymore. And
well, it's interesting.
Bodies anyway. You know, we should just have one body for everything.
Exactly. Well, it's interesting that, Chris, because they have got closer, but of course, let's not forget the Premier League was set up and basically took over the EFL's job. It created a Super League. You know, we talk about Super Leagues. The Premier League was a Super League. The EFL always ran football. It was the top division. So you're trying to deal with someone that's come in there and actually basically crapped on your head anyway from 30 years ago to be able to create this league in the first place. So look, they have obviously got closer with it, but obviously their judgments on what has happened here have obviously been different. And the EFL has treated us better than the Premier League has, there's no doubt. For Sheffield Wednesday, it will just be EFL because they've not been in the Premier League. So there's no jurisdiction from the Premier League to them at all, right? And I've also think the EFL has got to look at how it looks at fit and proper ownership and all the rest of it, and also what it's doing, because of course that's another argument of this as well, isn't it? But yeah, I've lost my train of thought. What I was going to say there. Sorry, I'll pass back to you, Chris. But I just want to get those.
Chris does that to you, doesn't he, Tom?
There's a lot of moving parts to this, isn't there? Yeah. And I get the emotional argument as well.
Yeah. If I ask, I very often ask a very long question for a very simple answer, but my train of thought is, well, if I confuse you often enough, you won't give me the answer that I don't want to hear. Not stupid, not stupid. There is a lot of moving parts, and Sheffield Wednesday didn't have that problem. They only had to answer to the EFL, and we've got to answer to the Premier League because we were in there for however many years, then the EFL, then we went back up to the Premier League, then we've come down. We are literally muddying the waters because we've been going up and down, and there's no... They should have thought about that when they were setting these rules up. Well, hang on, some clubs are going to go down, some clubs are going to go up or whatever. I can go back to sort of, I'm going to do your job here, Tom. I'm going to go back to two other clubs. And Everton and Forest, they stayed up. And I think this was the point you were making. Let's say this is now, the appeal goes ahead, and they have to give us, I just think they've got to give us our 6 points back while that appeal's going on, because if you're in appeal, you're not actually been found guilty, if you like. That then puts West Brom into the bottom three.
Yeah, this was going to be my next point.
Yeah, it drags Blackburn and Portsmouth, who are only a couple of points ahead. I think Charlton are safe, to be honest with you, on 39, and Norwich City. But then, are we going to see them taking legal action against us?
Yes, that is my point, and that's why the league has really got this wrong, and they should have never issued the first problem in the first place. They never should have started this knowing there was going to be an appeal process, because all it's done is created another Burnley-Everton situation where you'll see West Brom and Blackburn and possibly others now sue Leicester. And I would sue Leicester as well if I was in their position, because if they get relegated, you're going down to the League One, where all of a sudden their PSR obligations going forward, Chris, are going to be you can only spend 50% of the money you earn in that league. It's not 80% like the Premier League. I mean, the Exeter Cities in League One and the Burton Albions, I worry for them. They'll be going back to non-league because they're not going to be able to financially compete because of these rules. But that is why it is an utter shitstorm. Excuse my French. I know it's a bit early in the day to be dropping the S words, but they...
Yeah, stop fucking swearing, Tom.
Yeah, I will. I try not to. But it gets me so wound up just to see the knock-on effect this causes, not just for us, but for everyone else. And it completely removes the sporting competition. We'll get to the end of this season with lawsuits facing us. We'll have to sue them. And it's completely madness, and it's all because of poor decision making, really, really dodgy rules. And that goes back to my other point I was going to say. When we changed our date of what we were going to do for our accounting, so we put ourselves into EFL jurisdiction rather than Premier League jurisdiction, and it was proven we were fine to do that. That's no different than what Chelsea did with selling things to themselves before they closed that loophole. The difference is the Premier League did not actually do anything about that with Chelsea. They just slapped on the wrist and went, don't worry about it. With us, they went, how dare you do that? There's a complete disparity then. It's all because of who you are, Chris. And that's what's wrong. And that's why these messes happen. And that's why we need to be calling it out publicly, not just as Leicester fans, as every other fan outside of the Big Six, and go, this is completely unacceptable.
And I think they've been doing that for years, haven't they?
Doesn't excuse it. Does not excuse it.
No. What I'm saying is the fans have been saying for years, what the fuck's happening with Manchester City's 115 charges, and so I think people have been saying it. Jim, look, you're American.
Last time I looked,
yes, last time you checked. And I was watching. I don't know if you've heard of a comedian called Matt Rife.
No.
Mike Rife. No, he's a very very funny comedian, and he's American, and I follow him because I just like his.
You like funny Americans. That's what it is. You know that.
I do know, and he is very funny because he is a bit like, and there's a Liverpool guy, and I can't think of his name. And the bits that you see are always the bits where he's dealing with like the audience and what have you, and he's very good. And he was asked the other day in one of his shows, or the clip that I saw, is it true in America you don't have any relegation or promotion? Let me ask you that question.
Oh, we do not. We do not. There's set leagues and structures where we don't get promoted. I mean, you'll go to the bottom. There's a certain number of teams. You'll just go to the bottom and you'll be at the bottom. In the universities and the colleges, they've created different leagues, but you're all pretty much playing for the same. There's no relegation and no promotion. Certainly, there could be some fines if you broke some rules, but no relegations.
You see, that's interesting because, we have a lot of American owners here of football clubs, and I'm just wondering if that's something that we're going to see, in this country. But again, how would we feel if they came along and said, right, Jim, from next season, you're in the division you're in, and that's it.
But I'll tell you, there's something unique about it. It's the one thing that I've really been attracted to following English football for all these years is the fact that there's an opportunity. If you do things right, you'll stay up or possibly winning your division. If you don't do things right, whether it be players get hurt, whether it be mismanagement, whether it be just bad luck, you get relegated. And you get to recharge and come back up again. Think about it. I mean, you get a chance to celebrate winning another division. Those trophies, and Leicester had parades for winning a League One or a championship multiple times. That's positive. So even if you get relegated and you turn around, you can come back up. But I thought of something. If you give me a second, I want to ask you this question, both of you. Do you think they told Gary Rowett that they were going to appeal? Because think about it. Gary Rowett took this job knowing he had a fighting chance with those 6 points already enforced to hold our team up, to keep us up. If, to the glass half empty up there above me, Mr. Chris Faza, if they do nail us with more, what do you think Gary Rowett, I'm sure somewhere in his contract is, if you stay up, you get X. If we get nailed with more points this season, holy crap. So my question would be, do you think they let him know before he took the job?
I know what I think on that, but Tom, I'll let you go and answer the question.
Hey, look, there's no smoke without fire. I'm going to say probably no, because I'm pretty sure the club has kept those things away from management as much as possible. There's been, some belief that there's been a little bit of Pinocchio behaviour going on with certain managers and what they were told they were going to be able to utilise in the football club at certain times. So, unfortunately, I would say they probably haven't told him that. And that's a very good question, Jim, because what would then stop Gary Rowett, if he lost his job, then taking the legal thing against Leicester to get that money as well?
Yeah.
Yes, I agree 100%, Tom. There's a first. Yay!
Wow.
We know Enzo was lied to. We know Ruud van Nistelrooy was lied to. We're not sure about Steve Cooper, and we're not sure, let's be honest with you, about Marty Cifuentes. Because would he put the money in that he put in? And I guess we've given him that back now. I would hope if we've sacked him that we've given him that money back. Who knows what the deal was? But we don't know whether what he has been told or not. Would it? The other question following on from that, Jim, and I'll back this back to both of you, would that have made any difference to him coming? Because I don't think it would. Because, like I say, people are saying, who would come to this club and any manager out of work would come to this club because he's got nothing to lose. If we go down, well, it's not my fault. Look at the position they were in, and they got 6 points, then they got more points. You can't blame me for taking them down. If we stay up, oh, look what I did. It's a win-win for him. So whether he was told or not, I doubt it. Would he still have come if he had been told? I believe yes. Tom, you had your hand up.
Well, just to quickly respond to that, if he'd been given a 3-year deal, I think you've got a very good point. He's on a 6-month contract. We've actually managed to negotiate a short-term contract for once, So I think it's interesting. I think if it was a 3-year deal or a 2-year deal, where the club had said to him, even if you go down, we're looking at you as the man to rebuild us in League One and get us back. I don't think it would become a factor then, Chris. But I think the fact is a 6-month contract does make it a factor. And it's a weird one where actually us trying to do the right thing for the club stability and financially on this occasion might actually result in us getting a bit of karma if there was to be an extension of a points deduction, perhaps.
And I think maybe he may have managed differently if he knew he had a parachute where it'll keep him afloat for 3 years. He may manage different. He may manage these next 14 games knowing he's got a 3-year deal to build for the future. Now, coming in, whether it's 6 or if it's going to be more, he's managing for survival, both for the team, the club, and himself, because he's entertaining. If I pull this miracle off, then we'll see. Not only will I have it on my record, but who knows? Maybe I get a deal with this club. So yeah, I think he would manage different as well.
Good point. Let me come back to you with another question then, and of course these are all hypothetical. But do we know that Gary Rowett said, I actually don't want a 3-year contract. I will come out and help you until the end of the season. But if you go down, that's not a position that appeals to me. I think that if you go down, that I could get a job at West Brom, who might sack the manager, at Charlton, at Swansea, one of those clubs, at Watford. And he may have said, yeah, if you go down, I don't want this job. If I go down, you're going to want to pay me less, etc., etc. So it could have been him. Your thoughts on that, Tom?
No, it's a very good point. I mean, the only thing we have got is, once again, the smoke of rumour, which is that the holding thing that was a sticking point for this deal was that they wanted longer-term contracts and the club wasn't willing. But we don't know this, do we? This is the thing. This is the unknown. We don't know if that's true or not. So you have got a very good point, playing a devil's advocate role in that. So, yeah, just a quick one for LCFC there. We could get even more of a points deduction with the Premier League appealing this, mate, so we kind of haven't got a choice. But I do get what you're saying.
Chris, to be honest, I think that Gary Rowett, from understanding from some reliable sources, he took the job to keep LTID afloat on this channel. I mean, really, that's what he did. Otherwise, he wouldn't have much to talk about, right?
Well, I think there's always something to talk about with Leicester City. That's the problem. It is a very like Jim, like Tom said, there's so much smoke that basically you can't see what's on the other side. You can't see through it. It's like trying to drive in fog with no lights on, or even with lights on.
And this is a big problem with the club, isn't it? And this is why the fans get upset, because, okay, there's certain things you can't be transparent about, but the things that have been said this year have not actually matched up to actions in the time they should have done, which means they seem disingenuous. It's only caused the divide between fans and club to get further. The club should really, really look at what they can do in regard to their communication with the supporters if they do want to try and get things back on track. Like I personally said, for me, I feel it's untenable and I think we need a divorce. I don't think there's anything that could be done now, but it is something they really should heed warning about.
No, you're dead on, because there's certain things in a business, and no matter what business you're running, that you can tell your employees, you can tell your customers, but there's certain things you can't. The more transparent you are with the things that you can tell them, the more respect you'll get from them. If certainly you can't tell them the things that are going to matter for their business going forward until it becomes a point where it can be shared. So yeah, there's communication is definitely lacking in our club.
Do you think, though, again, I'm going to play devil's advocate with you guys here, but look, it's my job to, as Wayne always says, you always ask the awkward question. Well, it is kind of my job to do this. If top was to sell now, it's the best time to buy a club when they're in difficulty, but I don't think it's the best time to sell a club.
Exactly.
Because what you're going to do, and look, we've already said, we know that the club's worth 20, 30 million at the moment, probably, which was a hell of a lot less than it was when we were in the Premier League, when it was over sort of 100, 200. Now we go down to League One, that's going to drop to value in the club to about 9 million, something like that. Now, if we sell the club now, are the buyers going to be the right sort of buyers we want? Or are we going to end up with like a Glaziers, if you like, that's going to go, oh, we can take advantage of this?
It's a very good question, because you could look at Charlton, and when this happened to Charlton, they got the Belgian chap in, didn't they? Because he was buying the club when it was cheap, and he didn't have any of the resources in order to be able to help Charlton. It ended up in the right mess, didn't it?
I thought it was a good question. I'm going to be honest with you.
No, it's a very good question. I mean, I look at this like if you're at, in a casino, right, and you're playing blackjack, and you all of a sudden you're starting to lose a bit of money. It's like, do we go broke over this, or do we just try and walk away from the table with our losses intact? And it depends what sort of person you are. I always felt the club was more likely to be sold if we got back into the Premier League, because then I think there'll be more of like, okay, we could at least get back a lot of the money we put into this. And that's the thing, the ownership here, for all they're bad, they have turned a lot of the debt into shares and equity. They've paid that off. I mean, look, we can't ignore that fact. Right now, we're not very happy. We'd like a change, but that has happened in the past, and it's for many, many millions of pounds this has occurred, right? So when you look at it from a logical standpoint rather than the emotive one, from their side of things, I don't see them selling, because I just see they've got too much invested in the club now to get any amount of that money back, right? So, yeah, but this goes back to what we're talking about here with this decision. And I think, look, if we're going down, we're probably at this point right now, until we see what Rowett does with this team, we right now probably deserve to go down for our on-pitch work this year. We're 23rd for running, we're 21st for this. For me, we kind of deserve to go down. But I do think these things off the pitch, which we can fight, irrelevant of if they're right or morally wrong, because like we said, if you're Man City or Chelsea or whoever else, even Aston Villa have done some dodgy things, allegedly, those things don't apply to these arguments, because that's not what this game is anymore. It's not about morals. It can't be what like every other club of the 72 outside of the top six operate with morals, and they don't. That's not the way it works. So I think that's what we got to get our heads around as fans and go, look, these are two separate entities entirely. The emotive answer is we would like a change and we want to see things happen. The logical answer is we need to fight this because it's the club's future that could potentially be on the line.
I'm just looking. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe those 6 points still sit there, even under appeal. But let's be honest with you. If it's a good argument, Jim, it could actually be taken down from 6-3 or whatever. So I would have thought although I suppose if you're in jail and you appeal your sentence, they don't let you out until the appeal's heard. They keep you in jail.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing maybe that's why we're still sort of in 22nd. But if we're looking at, well, this isn't the best time for them to sell, that means, because it was never the right time for Newcastle to sell under Mike Ashley, and he put it off, and people would come in with with bids, and he wouldn't accept it. He wanted more money. But if Top isn't going to sell until we get into the Premier League again, we could have these owners for 10 years.
No, and to follow up on your question before Tom answered, I think it is a good time for a buyer. And I think if Top is really in bad financial shape for whatever business, whether he's still a part of King Power, whether they're still a part of our ownership or whatever, I think if he wants to get out of it, now's a good time, because there are people out there that would buy. There are people out there with deep, deep, deep pockets that want to get their hands on English football club, especially a football club that has trophies. Look at them right behind you in your picture. I see those pretty ones back there. So they've got a recent history, and it's not like, that's right, I know you were a part of it.
I'm pretty, not the trophies. I'm pretty. They get it right.
I think what I'm saying is they've had a more recent history of success, certainly have won the Premier League. So I think there's people with deep pockets. Now it gets to, what kind of people, and that was part of your question, what kind of people would be interested and would buy the club? If it's strictly one of those liquidation business deals where they're going to just wipe the thing clean and couldn't care less about the fan base, the history, or whatever, that would be god awful. If it's one that has deep pockets that says, you know what, I'll pay all the fines, I'll rebuild it, we're going to win, and we're going to move up. It may be a good time. You just don't know. And I don't want to throw out there the grass is always greener, because I think right now our ownership has proven they've not done the best things for the club and for the fan base. So I'm a big believer of if they can sell now, sell, but we got to be real careful who we sell it to. If there's any provisions that Top can say, this is what I want to do, or this is what I want to see continue before the sale, maybe. But you don't know. You don't know what you're going to get, but there could be people that on the positive side could put a lot of money into this club.
Yeah. Armchair, this is what I've just been asking. We don't know if we get the points back while we're in dispute. That it hasn't yet. I mean, when they took the 6 points off us, the tables were updated straight away. Now we've gone into appeal. Not one table has not moved us from 22nd. So it looks like not.
I don't think it will.
No, I think you're probably right now. Let's say thing if we do sell is, the grass is always greener, Tom. It isn't always greener, sorry. I worked at Blackburn Rovers for about a year, and, I saw what happened to them when, the Jack Walker passed away, and then his family didn't want to run it, and they sold out to the chicken farmers, who really should be able to pluck off. But there we go.
Well, it's scary, isn't it? Because they're in a similar position to us, where their fans don't like to go anymore.
Yeah, no. They are. They don't know how to run a club. I mean, the club was well run, and they came in and they sacked people and what have you. But look, it is all about money in football these days. We know that. And, we've got to remember, as much as we are hating the Tops family now, we loved them when we were winning promotion. We loved them a little bit maybe when we stayed up, but we loved them when we won the Premier League. And let's not forget the look of Top, holding that FA Cup trophy and looking up to the sky and his dad. We loved them then. Yeah. But that goes with being, football owners, doesn't it? You're not always universally loved, and things change as it does for managers and players. Is the answer maybe for Top not to necessarily sell, but to just maybe get more investment, maybe sell 50% of the club?
That could be a great shout. I mean, the problem once again is where the club is right now. You won't get the money on your investment you'd like for that. Once again,
3 good things I've said today.
Yeah, wow. You've been on it, mate. You've been on it. Let's remove the emotional side of this for a minute and just think about it logically a little bit as well, because the two things sometimes don't quite. I always say your heart loses out a lot in life, doesn't it? More times than often to logic. Otherwise, we all live quite different lives. But when I look at this, I kind of go, if the club had this year taken some public accountability for the things that have gone on, I don't think the uproar from the fan base would be at the level it's been. I think it's escalated because all we've heard is the club defending itself, which of course it has a right to do. There is no doubt about it. It has a right to do that. But there also needs to be a thing to the fans where we go, we have got this wrong. We have not had a succession plan in place or a vision, for the future of what to do in this scenario or that scenario. Clubs like Brighton have. That's what annoys us. You can see clubs like that have it. Brentford have. They've got a plan ready to go for when either A happens or B happens or C happens. We were just plotting on in one direction. I think if there had been some smart people behind the scenes earlier in the season and they take some accountability for that and laid that out in some of the discussions that were talked about, rather than just hearing, oh, we'll get promoted next season, I think then the fans would be a little bit more forgiving of it, Chris, to be honest. But there we go.
Let me come back to you, Jim. You get in with this one if you want. We do look now at Brentford and Brighton and go, that's the way to run a football club. Within my lifetime, and you said it yourself, Tom, when I was in Lanzarote, because I do occasionally go to Lanzarote on holiday, not very often, but just occasionally. And I went to see Lanzarote, and you said, my God, are you at the old, whatever it was, that when Brighton used to play
The Wivney, when they had the running track. Yeah.
well, exactly. So Brighton have got a history of not necessarily being run well, but they are where we were when King Power first took over us, because everybody was saying we'd love Leicester's ownerships. You've got the best ownerships, and all this. But we don't know where that's going to go with Brentford or Brighton. We're saying that yes, they are, they are being run well now, but then so will we at this stage, probably in their ownership. We don't know what's going to go on in the future. Southampton sold out to a guy who died. His wife came in, didn't want to run the football club, and ended up selling it. And you don't know. You could get. I'll be honest with you. We didn't know who King Power were when they came in and bought us. But like with Portsmouth, when Mandrich sold, and I do need to look into this Mandrich rumours, but when he sold Portsmouth, the first guy he sold it to was brilliant. But then he sold it on. And I know the checks are a lot more stringent these days. But, the thing with putting Brighton and Brentford up there is they're only where we were at that stage, I think, in their ownership.
Well, the only thing I'll come back to you with that is the one thing that Brighton would not do is they're not going to deviate from what they know works with their system, because it does work for them and it keeps them competitive in the Premier League. Where Leicester got it wrong, where we got it wrong, where our owners got it wrong is we had the system down. We had a small squad with highly fit players. We had a great medical staff that was envious of every other team in the country, including Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp, who looked at us and went, I don't understand how they do this, and stole a lot of our ideas for themselves. We went away and for some reason got so arrogant or so lost in the fog that we completely fell away from the process of signing players who had that little bit less quality, but also you could train and build up, and went for people with a bit more of a different character. Brighton don't do that, Chris. They don't do it. They just don't sign those players. They've never deviated from it. So that's where the difference, I believe, lies between us and them, and why we're in the mess we're in and they're not. I don't think they will get in the mess, because I think they're going to stick to the plan.
In fairness, they could have probably said that about Leicester back in the day. We will see. We don't know. At the moment, everything we're doing bad is not what we were doing well, but they are doing it well. Jim, I'm going to go back onto the PSR bit in a second, but I'm going to ask you the question, and I often get poo-pooed when I ask this. Do you think that we won? Or let me reword it. Do you think that we won the Premier League too soon?
No, I don't think so. I think we deserve to win it. I think what Tom said a second ago is part of the reason we did. We built up with a plan. We built up with the right people in charge. We built up with an ownership group who bought in. They were all in, supported them. We had the players that had. They were fighting dogs. They were underdogs. They fought tooth and nail for the team, for the badge, for the club, for themselves. So no, I don't think we did. But my God, as a Leicester fan, we're glad we won it. But I don't think too soon. I think that the key is what we did after we won it. Like I said earlier, and Tom alluded to it a second ago, is what we did afterwards. We were up there. We were drinking that Premier League Kool-Aid and enjoying it and being out there and just loving life as a Premier League club. But we fell away from what we did to get there. And we were a little delusional in not just what it took to get there, but we didn't know what it took to stay there. Okay. We didn't have the history of being with the big six, but we were living with them. So we were hanging with them. It's kind of like the person who doesn't have money that's brought into the mansion living with all the millionaires. And all of a sudden they realized they didn't have the money or they didn't have the wherewithal. So I think
we would say here, Jim, keeping up with the Joneses.
Keeping up with the Joneses, I think, is a worldwide. But ultimately, no, we didn't win it too soon. We just didn't know how to act once we won it.
I don't know how we could have won it too soon, because we never expected to win it. I think you've got to take the opportunity when you have. I think, yeah.
No, what I'm saying is, had that happened when we'd been in the Premier League 3 or 4 years longer, we probably maybe have done things differently. I'm not saying, because the original point I was going to make, Tom, was because I think winning the Premier League, look, we all love it. We're all glad we did it, but it has been a bit of an albatross around our neck because it kind of, then, it was a case of, well, we're trying to keep this up now. We're trying to live with the big boys. And that's, of course, when it all started to go wrong.
Well, yeah. I think if there was anyone in the club who felt that we had to try and keep up with first place in the league, that would be the daft thing to do. I think keeping up with being in Europe, being in the top 7 placing, sometimes maybe if you're lucky to get 4th or maybe 7th, or you maybe jump around between Champions League, Conference League. I think that would have been a much more reasonable thing you can achieve. But I don't sit here as a fan, Chris, going, I ever expected any more than that. I didn't expect us to win the Premier League every year. I never expected us to win it the first time.
No,
but you gotta admit, guys, after we won it, we weren't satisfied with being in the top 6. We wanted to win it again.
Exactly.
We felt we had the team to win it again. Granted, Claudio didn't last long afterwards, but when we were up there in that top 5, we felt we could go toe to toe with them. And maybe we had some of those players that still could do it, but there's a lot of infrastructure and a lot of planning and stuff that's got to go into it. And if you fall away from what got you there, that's what got us where we are.
Kyle, thank you very much for your kind words. Yeah, I don't know if anybody that's in the East Midlands area and as Greatest Hits Radio, GHR, and that I'd have been in the middle of the Ken Bruce show then. My God, that's an honour. But it's Greatest Hits Radio / Hits Radio. There's 2 stations, and I did do a bit of an interview. I think I've got to say probably most of it is out of date now. And I know they played it. I mean, that's how quickly things are going. I know they played it twice last night because I was getting loads of messages going, I've just heard you on the radio, sort of thing, So I'm surprised they played it again this morning with everything that's gone on. But I want to, but thank you very much for your kind words. Thank you. Let me read this out to you. Let's get back before we end it to because I really have not eaten yet today and I am starving. So Leicester and Premier League appeal Fox's PSR punishment. Now this is on Sky. I've decided it's the Sky one that I'm going to read. Now this is interesting, gentlemen. But this is interesting. I know. I've got to say, Tom. I'm going to say this now. Your Leicester City display is amazing.
I know, it's one black King Power shirt. It's basically showing we're on the way to a funeral for King Power right now, isn't it?
Well, that is very true. I'm wearing black as well, so I can't really say much.
It's metaphoric, Chris. Minimal and metaphoric.
We're all wearing black.
Oh, yeah. We are the men in black. Maybe not. The Premier League has confirmed that both they and Leicester City have appealed the 6-point deduction awarded to the club for breaching the EFL profit and sustainability rules. So it's the EFL profit and sustainability, but the Premier League has appealed. The interesting thing there, Jim, and maybe it's just the way I'm reading it, but the Premier League has confirmed that both they and Leicester City. So Leicester City, as I read that, and forgive me, I could be wrong, they hadn't announced it. It took the Premier League to announce it to the Leicester fans.
I think that's what it sounds like. Tom mentioned it earlier. I think that it was the Premier League who brought it forth first, and we just followed suit, which may or may not be the best legal move to make. But I think once they've done it, jump in.
But why does the Premier League have to appeal an EFL decision? Haven't they got better things to do, like fix VAR to make sure Tottenham don't get relegated? I mean, haven't they got other, allegedly?
I'd love to see Tottenham relegated.
Well, they won't. I know that much because
and then go on and win the Champions League. Interestingly, look, this is all over Leicester Mercury, BBC, any site, Sky Sports, any site you go on, they are reporting this story. This is a question for you now, and the prize will be a pint of beer because I'm not close to either of you, so you're never going to get it. So I'm safe with that. One site has not reported it yet. Who knows what that one site that has not reported this is?
I would say Leicestershire Live.
Tom?
I'm going to guess the Premier League.
Okay. I haven't checked the Premier League, in fairness, so you caught me out there.
I'm probably
it
wrong,
isn't
though.
Leicestershire Live, Jim. It is LCFC.com.
That's kind of what I meant. My bad. LCFC. I'll take half a glass of beer.
They're probably preparing
No,
a statement now.
No, you won't. You can have a glass of water. You got it wrong. Our own club website has not got it on.
They're probably waiting for a lawyer to write it up for them because they probably got to be careful how they word it, Chris.
True.
Maybe Nick DeMarco's going to write it, and in Nick DeMarco, I trust definitely in this scenario.
No, I think we all do. We all do. But, I mean, it just kind of... Yeah, Andreas said there, the club. I think I didn't know whether you put that up before I said it or after, but I'll give you... Andreas gets the pint of beer. I don't think he's in Dorset either. But I just think that's how disgustingly bad this club is at the moment, because we're having to rely on other people. Anyway,
yeah, they could have posted it, but at least a little statement, couldn't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Andreas, I bet you would. The Foxes were sanctioned for failing to comply with PSR rules for the 23-24 season. We've still got the 24-25 to go. And while they're appealing to reduce the punishment, the Premier League is seeking a harsher one. Leicester avoided a points deduction in relation to alleged breaches of the top flight's profitability and sustainability rules for the 22-23 season after an appeal by Leicester was upheld in September 2024. An appeal board found that in that instance, the independent commission appointed under Premier League rules did not have jurisdiction over the club because it ruled the 22-23 accounting period ended a month and 2 days after the club's relegation from the top flight. Not a loophole, that is not a loophole. That's just a very badly written rule. So, the Premier League initially recommended the EFL sanctions. Sorry, I'll try that again with my teeth in. The Premier League initially recommended the EFL sanctioning guidelines should be applied as normal to Leicester, which would have meant a 12-point deduction, as we saw with Sheffield Wednesday. Leicester City Football Club has appealed the decision of an independent commission to impose a 6-point deduction on the club after it found them to be in breach of the EFL profit and sustainability rules, the Premier League has said. The Premier League has lodged its own appeal, limited to the Commission's decision not to impose a sanction on the club for its breach of the league's rules regarding the late submission of annual accounts. The parties submitted their appeals to the chair of the judicial panel, who will now appoint an appeals board to hear the case. This is just going to say drag on. Here we go. To provide certainty for all clubs and fans, the Premier League will be seeking to have the appeal resolved urgently and in any event before the end of the EFL season.
Yeah, it's easier said than done, though, isn't it? I mean, they all might want to do that. But I mean, it doesn't work like it. I tell you what, I really got this thing against the Premier League, as you know. But I tell you what, we should probably do.
You hide it well, mate. You really hide it well.
Well, bearing in mind how they like to treat clubs, here's what we should do for a laugh. If we were to get promoted in a couple of years down the line by some miracle back to the Premier League, I wouldn't go to the Premier League. I'd go talk to France and say, can we come to your league instead? And literally go, we're not actually going to go into your league. Newport have done it. I mean, Swansea have done it. Cardiff have done it. They've come across the English game and go, up yours, mate. We're going to go to the French league instead. We will get a nice away trips then in France, Chris. Imagine how beautiful that would be.
I do actually have a French team that I actually kind of like, and I wouldn't want us to play them.
Is it called Brest?
Sorry?
Is it called Brest?
Wow, he's speechless.
You are such a child, Tom. Do you know that?
The Premier League makes me a child, especially today.
No, it's just because he used Chris's humor against him. Chris was like...
It's not. You must think I'm Mika Richards.
Which one's yours then? I like Toulouse. Which one's yours?
Saint Etienne.
Oh, Saint Etienne's good. Yeah, cool.
Who had Club 12 for a bit after us as well.
That's where we got Fofana from.
Yes, yeah. I think we've kind of gone round in circles on this, haven't we? But you suggested this, Tom. I can't take credit for this as much as I'd want. But you said a final question. What do you think the outcome of this is going to be? So, guys, get in the chat with it as well. And I think we could just say, let's just say plus or no, that's not really wrong. Do we say win or lose, or do we? We don't. I don't think we need to go down into lose, but by how many points? But
well, say how many points do you think will be deducted off us by the time the season ends, perhaps?
Okay. Well, you go first then, Tom.
Well, I think there is. Well, I think it can go. There's two answers I kind of got for this, which is annoying.
No, that politician comes out again.
Well,
come on, Zakir, get on with it.
Someone's got to be a decent politician in this country at the moment, Chris.
Very true.
Yeah, my two answers are: firstly, I think it'll either stay the same, or which I think I'll be quite happy with, or I think if we go down a certain legal route, which I have always felt with this, which is I think these rules are actually unenforceable legally, I think we'll have them all knocked off, and I think we'll end up with 0.
Jim?
I still think we're going to end up with the 6 that we have. I think they're going to go back and forth, and they're going to say, listen, we could hammer them worse, but we're not going to take them back. I think we're going to stay with our 6, but the loopholes will be closed. I think there'll be some positive effect out of it for the long-term gain for all the clubs like us. I mean, certainly it won't affect us now, but those loopholes will be closed, so this won't happen in the future. I think we'll stay with the 6 points. Chris?
I think they will shut the loopholes because they did last time. Look, it's going to be 6 whatever. They're not going to make that any better. I honestly think it will be worse for us, though. And I will take anything from between 7 and 10. I think it could be. Yeah.
I still think we could win this in court. I think as sport of arbitration, I think they've shown they've got no standard for these rules whatsoever. A good lawyer like Nick DeMarco can argue certain things we've talked about, like Man City and Chelsea as well, and the standard for them. I think we could end up having 0 points knocked off.
But this isn't the court of arbitration, is it? This is another Premier League.
No, see, this is complicated, isn't it? Because I said, what's the point in appealing? We might as well go to a court of arbitration. But I'm pretty sure, Chris, technically the appeal does go to a court of arbitration. It's confusing. I know. I'm not 100% on that either.
Well, the whole bloody thing's confusing. Armchair and Dan. Hi, Dan. How you doing? Oh, Wayne, can you just confirm, are you still okay for the prediction show, 7 o'clock tonight? Thank you very much for that. Turf Moorhouse, 12 points. Start of next season, 0 this season, but start next season minus 12. Just when you thought the club was doing the right thing, they stupidly go to the next level. Yes, they do. But look, they're appealing it. I hope they win. Of course I do. I'm not sat here and saying, look, no, I'm not doing a big, strong Leicester boys thing that he did on GB News and saying, I hope we get relegated because it'll, teach the club a lesson. I mean, you don't go onto a national television channel and say that, do you?
No, that was weird, wasn't it? Because, just to quickly say that, I get that people kind of want to get the ownership out right now was by any means necessary. I get that. But I say this, if we go down this year because we've been the 3rd worst team or 2nd worst team on the pitch, we deserve to go down. But these things for me that have muddied the waters off the pitch, look, don't go down that route because the football club's future's on the line. Be careful what you wish for.
What I'll say about GB News, because I've been on GB News as well, and I was invited on, when Gary Lineker didn't appear on Match of the Day, and GB News did their own Match of the Day show. And I was speaking to the guy. He's no longer at GB News. I think he's now at Talk TV. But I know him sort of off the channel, and he said, what do you think about it? And I went, well, being a victim of Gary Lineker's bullying at school, the less I see him on TV, the better. And of course, as soon as I said that, it's, do you want to come on Saturday and put your point across? So I wouldn't be surprised if they'd not approached a couple and they're going, oh, yeah, that's the most controversial saying. Let's get him in. So in fairness to him, that's what GB News look for.
You could have ended up with a Clough and Revy situation then, where you end up in the studio and then there's Gary sat next to you.
Yes, and I could have done, but yeah. Anyway, that's another story, a longer story for another day, and what have you. It was weird.
Yeah, she talked about the big strong Leicester boys. So, yeah.
Was that Jake? Was it? Yeah. Sorry, I don't know any of them, to be honest with you, over there. Yeah.
It was very bizarre, wasn't it?
It was a very, very bizarre thing to win. Look, when we played Southampton in the FA Cup, I said I'm not going to cry if we lose because we've got bigger fish to fry. However, I want the club to win every game that we play.
Yeah.
If I predict, if I was still in the prediction league, I stepped down. No, not because I was doing badly, but because I haven't got bloody time. Stick your cattle prod up me, Tom, while I'm walking round, and I'll set fire to everything. But when I stepped down from I've totally forgotten what I was. Oh yeah, as you guys do. We predicted that Leicester would lose because we wanted points in the prediction league, but we didn't want them to lose.
No,
not at all.
And that's the difference, guys. That is the difference.
Well, I've seen that. I'll tell you from my perspective, I've seen that with you, knowing you like I do. But still, there's a lot of Leicester fans out there that have just been vicious about wanting the worst for the club. And if you're truly Leicester through and through, you can't want the worst for the club. You could say, I mean, if somebody put you on a prediction and say, what do you really think will happen? I think we may lose. I'm still going to cheer for them. But the Leicester fans are out there that are refusing to even cheer for them. They're not Leicester fans.
I've known people like this. They just love "I told you so" to the point where it becomes all-encompassing of a low vibration of themselves. And it actually makes them pretty empty. And I always feel for these people who go,
it's going to be miserable.
You've got to be miserable, haven't you?
Yeah,
it's so weird. It's like, I mean, look, the club, if it fails, will fail on its own. We don't need to be encouraging it.
I like what you said, Tom. If we go down, let us go down from playing poorly on the pitch. And truly, we have to accept that. But anyway.
So we're going off tangent here, Chris, aren't we?
Yes,
Apologies,
I did have a question then, and it's gone out of my mind. But yes, no, it's come back. It's come back. That cattle prod, you turn the cattle prod on, and it got the old brain ticking. Yeah, electric vibes going up. Look, and this was something that Clibo brought up yesterday on the show we did last night. Thank you very much, Clibo. There's protest planned. I think it's for around the Norwich game, possible marches and what have you. We've just appointed a new manager. That's probably 2 weeks away, the Norwich game, something like that. Could that be? I mean, if it goes ahead, I hope it goes ahead like adults. We've heard the chants about against Top and against John. You wanting the club out? That's fine. Have this club done as, and this is another show, but a rhetorical question. Have our owners done as much as the Glazers did to Man United? I don't think they have, in fairness. But look, you've every right to protest. We live in a free country. We don't have ICE agents over here. So, sorry, Jim. But I can't miss a chance. I've got a new thing on my radio show on Saturday and Sunday mornings, and that is, and the quote is, "Only in America."
I've heard it.
You've heard that one already, have you?
That's the last time I'll be listening to that show.
Do you realise how much Jim has to literally turn a blind eye, mate? No, I'm joking.
I am too. Go ahead, Chris.
He knows that. He knows it's all in jest. He knows it's all in jest. But if these protests, should they be postponed, because we've just got a new manager in, let's see how that goes on, or should we still have those protests.
I think you can separate the two. I have no problem with any fan wanting to protest and any fan who wants to go, more power to you. But I do think right now, when you get inside the stadium, if you do want to go inside the stadium, for some people, they might not want to go in, it'll be a low attendance, that's fine as well. But I think if you're going to go right now, we've got a new manager in, I think that let's try and at least try and get the club to a position where we can have no things thrown back at us for that side of it. You know, I think you can separate the on-pitch things we're seeing right now versus the off-pitch. And I think the on-pitch stuff that's important to us is the club staying up, because going down to League One opens too many cans of worms for us.
Yeah. I think once you go in that stadium, you should be the 12th man. Simple as that. You want to protest on the outside. But if you're a true fan, take your ticket, go in, cheer for those guys on the pitch and the new manager, which may be turning things in the right direction.
Yeah, Paul just said there, Leicester have two sorts of fans. One lot wants, and that's it. send me the second part of the answer there, Paul. I mean, for me, I kind of see the point of holding banners up, and I don't think that particularly is a bad thing, because it's not noisy. It's just people holding banners up to be seen. There should not be any booing of anybody until the end of the game. And once the game's over, then you can boo away to your little heart's content, because you are looking at the performance of the players. You know, if we win 3-0 and you still want the owners out, don't boo, because it's the players.
Yeah.
I think, for me personally, I think you should just put it on hold. Put it on hold. I mean, suddenly, if, let's say, we win this and we actually get a point where, you know what, you've won it, you know, the appeal board said you've won it and that 6 points shouldn't have been taken off you, and we're safe and we start winning under Gary Rowett, then we've got a completely different situation, haven't we? And I don't think you can protest. You can plan a protest, but you can't protest when you don't know what the what situation we're going to be in.
And it's the new manager thing, isn't it? I think if it was under Marty Cifuentes and it was the 5th week in a row of seeing Luke Thomas or Ricardo or whoever do something, boo away, I think that's fine, because the players haven't really shown enough in those games. But this is an opportunity for a fresh start, hopefully. If it doesn't work out and the players are crap, have a boo at the end of the game. I always would myself.
Great.
I'm going to ask you both this question now. I'll come to you first, Jim. And this was one that me and Clibbo were discussing yesterday, and I think it's a brilliant question.
Must have been Chris's question. You knew that was coming.
In fairness, I don't know if it was mine. It might have been Clibbo's, but starting lineup comes out at 1:45 on Saturday. If you see that team sheet come out and you've got Luke Thomas on the left, Ricardo Pereira on the right, and Jordan Ayew up front, what does that make you think about Gary Rowett? Jim, you go first with that.
I would think that means, well, I won't say about Gary Rowett. I would think that means they must be the best players in those positions. And here's my point. Because he's coming in, he's got nothing to lose. He can change every single player if he wants to. If what he has seen on film and on the training ground proves that those are the best 3 or whatever, best players for the team in those positions, for whatever style he's going to play, then that means he should play him at this point. If it was Kingy again and he did it, then we would just say it's just carry over.
Okay, well, let me read, before I come to you, Tom, a very good point, Jim. So let me rephrase the question and come back to you with it. How would you feel if at 1:45 on Saturday you saw the team sheet come out, Luke Thomas was left back, Ricky P was right back, Ayew was our striker, and the team formation was 4-2-3-1?
I think my answer doesn't change. I think he's had the time to see ahead of time on film what they've played like. And this is where my point is, you can't fool Gary Rowett in 3 days of training. Okay, you can't. He's already seen what we've done. He's seen them either in person or on film. And then he's seen what they're capable in a 3 or 4 days of training ground. If he still thinks they're the best players for going up against what Stoke has to bring to us, then I'm okay with it.
Tom?
Yeah, I mean, I look at it this way, and that is that if I see that happen, which is more likely we will see it happen, it's because we didn't do the right transfer business in the transfer window. A lot of us said we needed either a left back or a right back cover, or maybe even a striker, because it'll be Daka and A who's going to cause the arguments on Saturday. We see the team sheet, isn't it? We haven't got anyone else to come in. That goes back to John Rudkin. That goes back to the club and the decisions they had to make and who they brought in. So he gets a free pass from me, Chris. He can go out there and pick whatever team he wants, and then we'll see what happens with it. Because ultimately, we've seen it in other places. Different players under different managers perform at different levels. I just want to see a more high-raised performance.
Now,
We're going to have to play some of them.
I'm not saying I want to see those. You had a great question. It must have been Clibos. No. But it's not that I want to see those, because those are 3 polarizing players that we fans do not want to see. But I give credit, like Tom said, to the new manager. If he sees it, then it must be what he thinks the best.
And we have got limited options. We're going to have to see some of them if we like it or not, unfortunately.
I think, and I said I would still give him, even if it's 4-2-3-1 with those players, and they are probably the 3 most divisive players that we've got to be picked. If he does that, then I would not question him this week. But if he does it as well the following week, then and we lose and we play awfully, then I would go, what the fuck? He's had 2.5 days, and I don't know whether he was watching us or whatever, but he's limited as to what he can do. My worry is that he might be relying on Andy King to tell him, and we know that Andy King basically just does whatever Marty did. Hi Craig, by the way, he's Bournemouth fan. How you doing, mate? Nice to see you. Yeah, okay. I hope you got your hand out the cow's arse. Those that know. Let me just say, those that know. Guys, I don't know. Have you got to go because they've just released the press conference?
I do have a couple things real quick, Chris. 3 quick ones.
Yeah, I've got to go after Jim's 3 quick ones, mate, if that's all right.
All right. First of all...
Do I need the other...
No, we'll do it. First of all, what we keep reminding ourselves, we're just assuming, it's just our opinions. We don't really know. Thank you. We don't really know, but we'll certainly find out. Great discussion. Secondly, we've got something promising to look forward to on Saturday, okay? We haven't had that for a month or 2, okay? So we're looking forward to a change. Hopefully we see a positive change that gets us excited again about the club. And last thing, I'm really glad this PSR appeal happened. Do you know why, Chris? Because we wouldn't have got to see those badass graphics in the corner of this screen right now. I don't know how you do it, man. But with the Court of Appeal, well done. No, not that guy. I'm talking about.
Sorry.
No.
That's one hell of a badass, I'll tell you.
Gosh, yes. I like what we've been looking at the whole show, the Leicester City Premier League PSR Appeal Court of Appeal. That's good stuff. So good stuff. Good.
Thank you very much. Very quickly, Craig says, when are we going for beers? I mean, I don't drink. How dare you cast aspersions on me like that, Craig, that I drink? I've never heard such a thing. Jim, Tom, thank you very much. Very, very glad. God. Thank you very, very much for coming on. I need food.
He doesn't drink. Sure, he doesn't drink.
Yes. Wayne, are you on tonight, by the way? Just confirm. You did say you were going to. Just confirm. I know you're working in the middle of nowhere. Just confirm if you can. It's 8 o'clock tonight. Guys, if you're coming back 8 o'clock tonight for the prediction show, this will probably raise its ugly head as well. That's the story, not Tom or Jim, of course. But thank you very much to everybody that's been in the chat. Really do appreciate it. Please do all the stuff. If you're on your mobile, hype us, click the notification bell, subscribe, like, do everything, basically. If there's something you can push it. That's the thing. And if you've been listening by your favourite podcast platform, which I know a lot of people do, I really, really do appreciate it. Guys, I'll let you go. I'll see you, everybody else, at 8 o'clock tonight. Thanks very much. Good night, and have a good night, good afternoon, and have a good one. Good night, everybody. Say night.
Thanks for watching. These videos are tremendous. you'd better like them too, or I'll be back.
This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network.
TalkSport. Powered by fans.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.